Hey everybody, welcome to the Gorilla Consultants podcast. I'm joined today by Sophia Waddingham,
Hello.
manager of Gorilla Consultants. How are you?
Sir. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you. And Avery Coutreau from WOODIE'S WAsh SHAck.
WOODIE'S, baby.
Yeah. How was the New Year, Avery?
In terms of business, we closed out on a great year. I think we're touching 62,000 members now, just like getting past that peak.
Yeah.
We've got 15 open locations as of right now, and number 16 is coming in Fishhawk. I want to say April, but it might be a little bit later than that. So
Sure.
We'll see what
That's how those things go.
So.
Okay. That's awesome, man. So Avery has been doing business with us for about a year and a half, 2 years now.
Yeah, I think we're closing in on the 2-year mark.
Yep.
So.
Quite a bit of business.
Yeah.
Need everything 22 minutes ago.
Yesterday.
And always some touches on making sure that we're meeting the mark in terms of what we're producing for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like quality wise, and like you guys are touching base along with pretty much every step of the process, whether it's like a blurry blow up, if it comes out, like you guys are always right there. Like, hey, are you okay with this? Just want to make sure before we put out 40,000 units of these and you come screaming at me.
So we've gotten to do some cool projects, right? And and I've actually been learning a lot, right, with the partnerships with other local businesses that you guys are pretty aggressive on. It's something that I've kind of had, like, what's our next step in terms of how are we going to start to collaborate more with other businesses in the area? This year we're rebranding Gorilla Consultants. We brought Sophia in last year, and she's just like kind of taking the reins in our digital team and taking over everything, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit about like growth and development with both of you today. I think that's like a good topic of conversation. Starting the new year off, where were we and where are we headed? What's your vision this year for Gorilla Consultants?
Going all the way, pushing hard, taking the reins, and just trying to get the content out there. Again, it's a new company, so not a lot of people know about us, so just trying to reach as many people as possible right now.
That's awesome. And your main priority is servicing our other brands, Tampa Printer, Sign Parrot, 813 Shirts, and We Wrap Tampa. Mm-hmm. I know you just made a shift recently in how you're developing your content. Talk a little bit about that. Like why the big turn around the corner from designed graphics to live production?
So the graphics are very static, and they just don't get a lot of movement, a lot of likes. I mean, they're not engaging at all, and people want to sit and scroll and watch engaging things, just like a commercial. I mean, commercials are moving and they're advertising, so that's what we're trying to produce, is something that's eye-catching that people are going to want to watch a couple times over and then like it, and then want to make that jump to our page and then watch everything else we have. And I have noticed that once we hit that 1,000 views, we started getting more feed on the lower ones, on the lower posts that we made. So it's just like it all trickles through. And that's what we want to see, is more content, more people viewing consistently.
Figuring out how to hit those dopamine receptors.
Yes.
I mean, and that's really it.
Honestly.
Right? We went from, we have this huge team of graphic designers, right? And, they put out like high quality graphics, through our social media channels, and nobody's touching them, right?
Nobody.
But then we go out to the Rat Bay, as an example, and we take a 10-second video of our installers just pulling some vinyl around a cargo van,
50,000 views.
Takes off, right? Yeah. So I think there's a little more personal touch to it too, right? Is seeing
telling
people
the story, making sure you have the right video, making sure you have the right caption, making sure you're timing it at the right time of day, me, and then also making sure that you're constantly posting, constantly having a story up, so you're always right there whenever that 15-year-old opens up their phone. It's like, oh, Sign Parent is always on my phone, like, let me go look at what they're actually about.
Not our target demographic, right?
But
hopefully they go tell their dad, who's got a roofing business, hey, these guys wrap cars, they're on the internet all the time.
And you got to start somewhere too. It's like once you're throwing content out, once you have enough out there, you can kind of like use those metrics and those KPIs to be like, oh, okay, like I see like the majority of my audience is X age, male, female, and then you can kind of, you know, take your approach from there and kind of make little minute changes or focus on a different aspect of it. So
sure. And next week we're going to be talking about this process that we've just started that speaks to that, where we have identified like this is our demographic. Here are the the key performance indicators that we know we want to go after, right? So we identified a large number of businesses in the Bay Area, and then we whittled them down. And I'm not going to tell too much now because we got to play this out, but we're going to we want to journal this, right? And what we were talking about right before we started, what we're doing right now is kind of a journal of Gorilla Consultants and its growth. And speaking of growth, I can't think of anybody in Tampa that I want to talk more about that with than you, right? So tell me a little bit. You just said 15, almost 16 locations.
Yeah.
You're set for April, so it's probably going to be August, right?
Most likely.
That's how things are going in our world.
With resources and the way like all construction costs, and like we go in and Woody's has an approach where like they're buying the land, they're building it from scratch. So I mean, with that comes a lot of extra like work, and there's a lot of people involved, from like contractors to third parties. So it's it's always, we kind of call it flying the plane as you're building it.
Okay.
And that's kind of a big like motivational thing I tell myself, because sometimes you don't know where the plane wing is, but it's like, hey, we're just flying it as we're building it. So it's just going with the flow, and kind of another term I like is putting out the fire closest to your feet. Especially in a startup world, it's more so just like, all right, like you see a step, you do a step, and you get a banana. So as long as you just keep it super simple, you can just kind of react to everything going on around you, patch it up, and just move on to what's the next priority.
Now, I've got to kind of challenge that a little bit, right? You came in last month and met you in the lobby. Hey, how you doing? How's your golf game? What's going on? That type thing, right? And you handed me a wristband. And I put that wristband on my water cup, and I look at it every day. Every time I take a drink, I look at this wristband. And it's a good reminder for me, because I am very much flying, building the plane while it's in the air. We've been flying. Like we didn't just take off and find a problem. The wristband says start with the end in mind. And it's approach that I kind of, January 1st, woke up, put that in my head. Like, all right, Terry, what is the end, right? What's December 31st, 2024 look like for you? And what do we need to do between now and then? So you talk about like, what's the next step, right? And focusing on that, which is very much what we do, right? We're constantly looking at like 6 inches at a time.
Right.
But how do you do that while maintaining a start with the end in mind kind of approach? Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. How do you manage the two?
Well, it kind of just, with being in a retail environment, like with us, it's like we have a product, it's a car wash, so it's like, it's a little simpler. And our approach, I think a lot of our success was just like getting the name out there right away. And we kind of contribute a lot of that to the relationship we have with the Bucks. And you can look at it as just like, oh, they're the official car wash of the Buccaneers. But like, if you look at the timeline that we were the official car wash, and we still are, this was like the time when Brady was playing, they were going to the Super Bowl and everything. Yeah. And we only had like 3 or 4 washes, like when we started this contract with the Bucks. But essentially, it was just like, we were looking at it as like, now's the time. Like Brady's here, like let's hop on this bandwagon, so to speak. And not to say that there's a lot of Brady bandwagon fans, but
there's a lot of Brady bandwagon fans.
Yeah.
Ticket prices are like much lower.
Right.
Now that
there's not like, looking back, there's not a analysis that we can do and be like, look, like being the official car wash of the Bucks has managed to get us this many car washes. But just like having that brand association and just putting that name out there when they were that good, and having those people, it's like, you just kind of, we're going after that lifestyle association. And then you drive by Woody's, so then just subconsciously you're like, oh, Woody's, Bucks, I want to be involved. Let's turn in and get a car wash.
Tom Brady gets his car wash there.
Right.
We don't know if that happens or not.
No, he doesn't.
We hope. No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Okay, you checked.
Every once in a while, we do we get like their street team involved. We do like a community day event at our washes, and cheerleaders will be out there handing out swag and everything like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that's like one example of it. Then can you refresh the question?
So
I feel like I went off the page a little bit.
We went down a little bit of a rabbit hole.
Yep.
And that's okay, because that's what we do on an hourly basis around here. Okay. Talking about thinking of keeping the end in mind at the beginning, but also kind of putting the puzzle together as you go. I think, and I'll talk a little bit about it, right? I know for us, I've got some numbers that I want to hit, right? In terms of, I deal a lot with our personnel, right?
Okay.
So I have a turnover rate that I want to maintain
within your
within our
workers?
organizations,
Okay.
right? So, we've got a number of employees across the different brands, right?
Sign Parrot, Tampa
Sign
Printer.
Parrot, Tampa Printer, 813 shirts. We wrap Tampa. We've got all these teams, and one of my big things that is important to me is employee satisfaction, right? So I've got to manage, and the two don't really go together well. I've got to manage this very high goal in terms of revenue, right? Without making them hate me, right? Like, and quite often when you start to drive on one, you lose the other, right? So I've got to keep the end goal in mind, which is our revenue goals, which, we'll put it out there. We exceeded our revenue goals for 2023. This is great, right? And we were able to maintain and keep the employees that have been with us and that we recruited during 2023. We were able to keep them into the new year. I think that was a big deal, right? So
happily.
Unexpectedly happily, I would say.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sophia can answer. I'm going to take Sophia as speaking for everybody.
Yes,
thank you
very happy,
for sharing that with us. So maybe happily, right? Yeah. I think they're happy. I like to think they're happy.
You got to look for the positives.
I do, right? Most of them are at work today, right? So that's a positive, know. We just got hit by a flu bug across all of the companies. It was bad. So I think, we've got everybody coming back healthy into a new year. I've got much higher goals in terms of revenue. I've got to maintain those goals in terms of employee satisfaction and keeping them with us while making these day-to-day shifts.
Got you.
And picking up, on new tasks and projects and ideas and visions. How the hell do you do all of it, right? How do you juggle it all?
Yeah. I mean, Woodie's is kind of at this point where we're not as much looking at it as okay, how can we increase profit? We're kind of looking at it as how can we strip off the unnecessaries before this blows up? Because, I mean, in a blink of an eye, we're at 15, which is triple from where we started at 5 when I hopped on. And, I mean, if this went from 15 to 30 right now, that's a whole other beast. Yeah. So if you can kind of we're at that point where it's all right, let's pause and kind of look back. Where's the ROI at on each campaign? What's necessary and what's unnecessary, and how do we just strip that all away and just lessen costs so that churn and how much money we're making per wash just goes up. And then from that point, if we can kind of streamline everything at 15, the next 15 will just be easy peasy. Yeah. But if we don't pause right now and kind of make sure everything's orchestrated and growing in the right direction, it's going to get to an unmanageable point if you had 30 of them.
Yeah. So, and you kind of have a sweet spot where you got to, we were talking about developing your SOPs, right? And this is kind of a sweet spot. And the same thing happened with us is, when Tampa Printer was producing, 2 years ago at the production level that we were at, our SOPs then would not work in today's environment. Right. But we're kind of at that sweet spot now. We're saying, hey, this is how we do things. Right. We have enough of a sample in terms of the volume of orders coming through that it will hold up in an expanded, kind of culture. So
we call that paying the dumb tax. So there's a lot of dumb tax.
We've paid the dumb tax. Yeah, especially with the wrap business. That was a whole new beast to us. Yeah. When we went into that space. Yeah. there was a lot of dumb tax,
Yeah.
right? But that said, we were able to develop some processes that other people hadn't thought of because we come at it from such a different angle.
Right.
I'm sure you guys have had some of that as well.
I remember like working with you on quotes when we had like that massive like fleet of Tacomas coming in, and like we needed it, of course, yesterday. And you were like moving people around. You're like, I can have you in this bay for the morning, and then we'll switch you over here. And I'm just like, well, this guy's working magic or something.
Yeah.
So
that's Terry though. He works some magic.
That's what we try to do, you know.
Yeah.
I was looking at the rat bay this morning, you know, and I was like, this needs some magic.
Yeah, we got a lot going on in the rat bay, which is a great thing.
It is.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the week, I mean, you had a whole system where you were like, all right, we can do it. We can get 7 Tacomas done in 3 days, but here's what I need. And you had a whole thing for me. I took it to my ops guy, and he's like, yeah, no.
We've had that happen.
Yes.
We've had that
constantly.
happen. We just had this morning or yesterday afternoon, 2 cargo vans showed up on a trailer.
Yep.
The guy jumps out, he unloads the cargo vans, and he takes off. And we're like looking around at each other like, does anybody know
what we're supposed to
what these are?
Yeah.
Right? And somebody, oh, I do know. And it was like, we should have all known about this. What is going on?
SOP.
And this is part of, so we actually recently developed those SOPs. That's the next step to it, right? You come out with these processes, and you tell everybody, hey guys, here's the procedure and process. Everybody understand? Yes. And then you wait until it's tested. And then it's like, I thought you understood.
Exactly.
And I think that takes repetition.
And I think, at least from what I've experienced with my boss over at Woodie's, like he's kind of given us some of that empowerment to kind of like, he's like, hey, I need an SOP for this. And he just gives you like the opportunity. He knows like you're already working within that realm of Woodie's. So he'll give you the opportunity to just go and create the SOP from scratch. And shout out to ChatGPT for helping me get the skeleton in place for that.
We've never heard of ChatGPT.
No. Who is she? Who?
Yeah.
We don't say that word here.
Bring them. Well, I just don't know what you're talking about.
No.
Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, Sophia doesn't have it up on her desktop as like an open tab throughout the day. It's not a thing.
It's blocked on our Wi-Fi.
There we go.
That's good.
That is the correct answer.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. We just block it on our networks.
Yeah. But my train of thought with that comment was kind of getting towards the point of like you make these SOPs like not as like a putting a hammer down to like control it, but it's like, hey, here's like a solution that I see to a problem. See a step, do a step, get a banana, right? But you kind of leave them open-ended. You leave that space at the end, like if we need updates, like because as people are experiencing the SOPs, someone like you might be like, hey, Terry, I was in the middle of doing step 2 and I thought we could have streamlined this by going and skipping step 3 and getting to step 4. So as long as you approach it with like being open-minded and like working together as a team, it just starts to flow, and then they just get massaged into SOPs, then become the book of life. Yep. And the company just lives by that.
And once you have that, the culture takes on a whole new look.
Yeah. Exactly.
So other than Location 16 coming soon, what else does Woodie's have for 2024 for us that I need to keep an eye out for?
Lots of promotions.
Yeah.
Lots of promotions. Okay. You'll see, I mean, you'll go down the road now, especially in Florida. It's just like everybody's licking their lips over it, more so because of the environment. Like you can put a car wash up north, but I mean, half the time it's snowing and it costs way more to insulate everything up there. I mean, mind you, you've got like salt and erosion and everything, but like just the amount of sunshine we have in our state and rain and everything, that's why you're seeing so many of these car washes pop up around Florida. It's just, it's a race to see how many people can just pop up and network them together. And with the new subscription model, you're not selling car washes, you're selling memberships. So rain or shine, like they're on the auto renewal subscription. And if you can build up a network, I mean, there's private equity firms up in New York that are licking their lips looking at all these guaranteed monthly incomes. Yep. So that's really the name of the game with car washing right now. So
your goal this year is more driven towards bringing on new memberships and growing that side of the business.
Right. And just looking at like what can we strip away that's not essential to what our customers are using. So kind of just getting in. And like, for an example, like I know last year, how many times do we have to rush order and pay extra fees for that? And we're doing an analysis on it, like as we speak, back at the office. But you know, that was kind of it's just a reflection of what I said earlier. Like flying the plane as you're building it. If there's a fire you got to put out, then so be it. Rush it. Get the A-frames out. Get those yard signs planted, and just make sure that people are showing up to get the car washes. But now we're looking at it as like, you know, if we had a whole annual plan in place with all these promotions, I could have had this sent to Terry 3 months ago, and these would have been executed already on the UPS truck. So it's just things like that where it's like, just step back, look at what's going on, and see how you can just more so respond to it rather than react.
So. Well, guys, I appreciate you both. Avery, you're a rock star, man.
Thank you.
It's been awesome to watch you guys grow over the last couple of years. I'm excited for the growth this year. Sophia, as always, thank you for joining me and being my co-host and holding down the digital side of what we do.
Can I give everybody listening a free car wash?
That would be awesome. You got a code?
Yeah, so get your phone out. You're going to text 30400, that's the number to text, and send the word SAND, S-A-N-D, to 30400, and you'll be given a free wash at Woodie's Wash Shack. So
SAND, S-A-N-D.
Text that to the number 30400, and you can go to any Woodie's. It'll pop up with a little barcode. You show it to the guy at the gate, and you're chilling.
Free car wash.
Yep.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's where I'm going to be this weekend.
All right, Sophia's getting her car wash. Thanks, Avery. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Awesome.